All right, so today we're going to talk about a little bit of God's Word with something to do with hope. Okay, finding hope in a hopeless world. Now, I'm not sure whether you agree with that statement or not, or which part of that statement that you have problem with. Whether you have problem with having hope, or you have problem with identifying that it's a hopeless world. I don't know. Okay, but it's September is coming, and whenever September is coming, I always remind it. You know, September many years ago. Okay. 2001. Well, 13 years ago. 13 years ago. I work in Rancho Cucamonga at the time, and I was supposed to fly to San Jose in the morning to do some training in headquarters in Santa Clara. And you know what happened, right? September 11, 2001. That's when the security of the American community suddenly gets shattered. And suddenly we start asking ourselves, what kind of hope we have in the world to come. Right? And it's very interesting that I had to cancel my flight, obviously. September 11, 2001, there's no plane flying that morning after what we heard happened in East Coast. Right? The next time I fly was November 12, 2001. Who remember what happened there? Small. This is like 10 years ago. You ever remember what happened? November 12, 2001. That's the next time. After what happened in September 11, I canceled my flight. The next time, I went to Burbank Airport in the morning of November 12, 2001. And I watched TV, and that's what I saw. Flight 587 fell right after takeoff from New York. November 12, 2001. And you can imagine, you know, just a month ago, we had September 11, and then now I was standing in Burbank Airport just ready to board my plane, and there on the TV, it's showing this. What come into your mind, you know? It's disheartening. Okay? It's disheartening. And there's a lot of things that happened during that time. A lot of people, unfortunately, start to forget. You know, there's terrorists that are still roaming around the world today, and we are not entirely secure. Now, by the way, November 12 is not nothing to do with terrorists. It turns out it's just a technical problem. But still, you know, I mean, well, 1 month after, you still have a lot of things in your thought, relating here and there. Okay? And again, the questions of hope start to come up. What would happen, right, if less than 1,000 people with, you know, just a box cutter can create all those things that happened on September 11? What would happen if some rogue country have a hold of nuclear weapons or something like that? What happened to the security that we all know that is the United States of America? Okay. And we start to ask ourselves, where is our hope? Now, it is very interesting also that this is 2014. 100 years ago, several months ago, June 28, 1914, exactly 100 years ago. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and his West Soviet, were assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a Yugoslav nationalist in Sarajevo. Who heard about this? You know this? You learn what is history? Why this is important? Why this event is important? This is the start of World War I. This event that happened 100 years ago actually triggered a series of events that starts the Great War. Okay? As you can see there, July 5th, Germany promised support for Austria. July 28th, Austria declared war on Serbia. It's just rolling one after another. August 1st, Germany declared war on Russia. August 3rd, Germany declared war on France. August 4th, Britain declared war on Germany. August 23rd, Germany invaded France. October 29th, Turkey entered the war. It happened for 4 full years until June 28th. Remember, it was started on June 28th, 1914. It was ended in June 20th, 1918, okay, with the Treaty of Versailles. That's when the Great War is ended. Why people call this Great War? Because at the end of the war, there are 60 million deaths. 60 million deaths. Can you imagine that? 60 million deaths. And people says at that time that never in our future we will have this kind of calamity. People thought at that time that this was the worst thing that could happen to humanity. World War I. Right? How wrong are they? Right? Because in 1918, June 28, 1918, there's Treaty of Versailles, the end of World War I. There's a cartoon that is basically depicting what happened. It's basically the victors, the Allied, is actually pushing the peace treaty toward the one that lost, especially Germany. And you know what happened after that? 1918, Germany was fed with all kinds of pressure that actually raised to the rise of one person, which is Adolf Hitler. Right? And people thought that World War I was the worst thing that could happen to the humankind. But just several years later, 1939, with the beginning of Hitler invading Europe, okay, the Second World War started. And the theater is even larger than World War I. Right? World War I is just strictly on Europe. World War II is expands Europe, Russia, until Japan. The whole Pacific Ocean is the theater of war, right? I mean, some of you that born in Indonesia, from the Indonesian history, that we also feel the effect of Second World War, because during the Second World War, Japan occupied Indonesia, right? So people that thought that 60 million deaths in World War I is the worst thing that we can do was disappointed, because you know how many deaths in World War II? Can you estimate how many deaths? Nobody knows the exact numbers. I'm telling you, nobody knows. And do you know what the estimate is? It's about 50 to 70 million. 50 to 70 million human lives lost in that only 1939 to 1945. And at the end of World War II, we all know it's actually the dawn of the nuclear age, because World War II is basically ended with the United States bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Right? The nuclear bomb. First time in human history that there is such thing as the mass destruction. Right? Mass destruction. Right? And again, 1945, we achieved peace. We formed the United Nations as an organization that's supposed to hold peace around the world. Right? But do we have peace? Do we have peace after World War II? Right? If you look around, these are all the conflicts. And this is not all of it. It's not exhaustive. These are only the important things, the important conflicts that happened after World War II. Right after World War II, right? Russia flexed their muscle, and we start the Cold War. It ended in 1990. Right? 1946, there's Chinese Civil War that separate Chinese and Taiwan. 1946, there's France-Indochina War. 1948, that's Israel War of Independence. Everybody knows, right? One day after Israel declared independence, the Arab nations, bombed them, attacked them. But Israel can win, which is very miraculous. Okay? 1950, Korean War. 1954, the France-Syrian War. 1955, Sudan Civil War, which is still happening today. Okay? 1959, Cuban Revolution, again, the communist rising. Okay? 1959, very notorious, that's when the Vietnamese War happened. Right? 1967, again, it's the Israel Six-Day War. Okay? 1979, Soviet-Afghan War. 1980, 1988, Iran-Iraq War. Okay? Persian Gulf War, 1990, 1991, the Balkan War, 2001, Afghanistan War, 2004, Iraq War. Right now, there's the South Sudan Civil War, and not only that, right now you heard a lot of conflicts that happen around the world. You know what happened in Ukraine, and the rebels, I heard this morning, the rebels is again pushing Ukrainian troops, so they have to retreat. What happened to ISIS and their violence, right? And how they are, I heard intelligence that they are now thinking, start looking into our borders. And again, what they say, we have to take it seriously. And it says that they're going to raise the flag of ISIS in the White House. Sudan, even though South Sudan is now independent, but there's still wars going on over there. And Nigeria, okay, with the terrorist group Boko Haram, those are one of the churches that was get bombed. Okay? And when we're talking about Christian persecutions, it's just everywhere in the world. Okay? Even in the United States, you can feel it. Okay, nobody get murdered because of St. Faith Day, but you can feel the pressure that we encounter every day, in and out. We are not allowed to pray in public now. Okay, there's I heard several days ago that there is I don't remember. Maybe you know there's a high school football team. There's one of their teammates that got injured, and then just automatically all their teammates basically just kneel down and start praying for their for their injured friend, and the atheist group is basically start suing the school, saying that you're leading you're leading the boys to a prayer in public. Okay, and many of the things something like this happening right now. Okay, you heard about Ferguson riots. Okay, abortion. Okay, since Roe versus Wade in 1973, more than 40 million babies has been aborted. Okay, this is even more than the population of California. Okay, and in Colorado now, marijuana has been legalized, so you can actually buy pots in the stores. Okay, and they're not only selling weed smoke. They actually sell like cookie, induced by marijuana. Oh, oh, yeah, right. And I heard like some incident where there are some kids that accidentally eaten them and they got very, very sick. But they're legal and they're not. The government cannot regulate that one. Gang violence is everywhere. Okay, you heard that Chicago is like how many deaths per day because of gang violence. Okay? And what happened in our southern border? There's a lot of gangs from southern border that now go into the United States because of our porous is just if we look outside. How about if we look inside in our life? Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, I'm hoping the best for whatever happened in your life. Okay, but out there are people, people struggling with family deterioration, financial problem, depression, domestic abuse, sickness, peer pressure, drug addiction, pornographic addiction, alcohol addiction, some disorders, betrayal, fear. Where is our hope? Where is our hope? And is this really a hopeless world? This is really a messy world. Some people start to question whether this is actually a hopeless world. Now, back in the Old Testament time, okay, there is also a situation like that. Okay. As you know that the Israelites, they used to be slaves in Egypt, okay, and then they got freed. You know all the stories. All the stories of Moses and the splitting of the Red Sea, the Ten Commandments. They actually went back to the Promised Land, right? Israel has finally formed a kingdom, right? First king was Saul, and then replaced by David, and then replaced by Solomon. And after Solomon died, Israel, the kingdom of Israel actually split into two, the northern and the southern kingdom. And the people becoming more and more, evil. Okay, they are going farther away and farther away from God. Okay? And if you look into, Old Testament, smaller, they call it smaller prophets, not because they are small, short, but because they're writing short books. Okay, and they're not small at all. Because very important things happen in their books. Okay, and if you read them, there are many of them that tell you the story about how the atrocities of the Jewish people at the time, the Israelites people, they went away from God. They commit a lot of evil things. Okay? And there's a lot of prophets that start crying. Okay? Start crying to God. And this is one of them. Okay? And we're going to look at him today. His name is Habakkuk. Now, if you can find the book of Habakkuk, it's hidden in the Old Testament, or you can have an Old Testament, have the Bible, you can open it out. The book of Habakkuk is hidden between Nahum and Zephaniah. Those two are even, rarely heard. Okay, but this is what happened during time. Okay, and the book of Habakkuk, it's only 3 chapters in the book of Habakkuk, but it explores a profound theme. Okay, because in the first, just right there, he started writing. Habakkuk started writing immediately by his complaint. Okay. And he's complaining to God. He's not only complaining, he's desperately shouting to God, asking for relief. Because what he saw is he saw a very, very messy world, a world that is hopeless. Okay, he says here on chapter 1, verse 2, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" Isn't that interesting? Right? Sometimes when we don't have problem, we feel that we don't need God, right? If we don't have problem, we don't need God. But the minute problem comes to us, maybe the first thing that we think is, this is a small problem, we can handle it ourselves. But once the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we start shouting to God. Suddenly, there is no atheist, right? Some people say there is no atheist in foxholes, right? Basically, everyone, when they're experiencing a lot of problem, the first thing that they blame usually is God. And when they're happy and when their life is, everything is okay with their life, the first thing that they think is, I don't need God. Right? Isn't that interesting? You don't need God when you're happy, but the minute you got problem, God is to blame. Okay, but I'm not saying that Habakkuk is somebody like that. Okay, but this is interesting. Sometimes when you read, the Bible is so honest. Sometimes we think that why we as a Christian we should not say that God doesn't listen to our prayer. God will always listen to our prayer. We should believe that God always listens to our prayer. Well, we do. We should believe that. Right? But the Bible is honest. Okay? In the desperations, during the desperation of what happened in Israel, thousands of years ago, at that time, when the people of Israel is so far away from God, okay, Habakkuk lifted up his voice and he says that, how long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? And he says, good. And not only that, he continued his diatribe. He says, we cry out to you, Lord, violence, but you do not save. Right? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrong? Sometimes when we saw all the atrocities around the world, we ask, what is God doing? Why is He not doing anything? Right? Same thing. That's what Habakkuk is thinking too. Okay? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Therefore the law is paralyzed and justice never prevails. The wicked hem in the righteous, so that justice is perverted. There's not even justice in Israel at that time. Okay, justice is perverted. Okay, and he has been crying and crying and crying to God. Okay, until finally, the book of Habakkuk recorded how the Lord finally answered him. Right? And in Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 5, God finally answers him. And He says to Habakkuk, look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe even if you were told. Finally, right? I can see how Habakkuk is writing these sentences with excitement. Because after years of prayer, of desperation, finally God answers his prayer. Finally, he heard something from God. Finally, he has hope. Finally, he can expect for some fresh water that was poured out from God, from heaven, to quench his thirst for justice. Right? So Habakkuk 1-5, God answers, look at the nation and watch and be utterly amazed. For I'm going to do something in your day that you would not believe, even if you were told. And Habakkuk was thinking, what is this? Something that I will not believe, even if I was told? What is this? What is this? The Lord gonna just destroy just like Sodom and Gomorrah? Or the Lord gonna pull out all the evil people? Or the Lord probably gonna send someone, some just prophets, greater than me? That's obviously, that's how I'm thinking, right? That will make all people repent? Well, he will never expect what God says afterward. Because this is actually the plan of God. This is how God answered the prayer of Habakkuk. And in verse 6 he says that, God, I am raising up the Babylonians, that ruthless and impetuous people who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwelling places not their own. What does God answer to Habakkuk's prayer? Habakkuk, you have been praying for me before. Have you praying for me all of time? I'll answer your prayer. You cry, you complain about injustice, you complain about violence. You know what? You complain about what happened in Israel right now. This is my answer to you. I will wipe out the Israelites. I will wipe out the kingdom of Israel. That's God's answer. That's God's answer. That's why God says that. God says, I am going to do something in your day that you will not believe. Right? Habakkuk was maybe waiting for some Messiah to come. Habakkuk was probably waiting for some just people or just person. Somebody that's very mighty, very powerful to come and to make people repent. You will never thought that God's plan is actually to destroy Israel. And that's why after hearing this, Habakkuk raised his voice again, this time in protest. Okay? In verse 12, chapter 1, verse 12, after hearing what God's plan for the Israelites, Habakkuk says, "Oh Lord, are you not from everlasting? My God, my Holy One, we will not die." Sorry, actually, 13, right? And 13. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. That's what Habakkuk is saying. God, your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrong. Why? Why then you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swell up those more righteous than themselves? Suddenly, Habakkuk was thinking that the Israelites are still righteous. Suddenly, Habakkuk was thinking that, God will never be on the side of the Babylonians to destroy the Israel. Right? But that is what God is doing. Okay? And this is a very, very important lesson in the Bible. Okay? This is a very, very important lesson in the Bible. God has a plan that sometimes we don't understand. But He has a plan in our lives. And sometimes, we don't understand why He's making that kind of plan. Sometimes we don't understand why something bad happened to us. Have you heard about the story of Job? Right? Job was a righteous person before God. Right? But just in a matter of days, everything that he owns disappeared. Everything is gone. And he just reduced to a leper. Right? But what did Job says to God? Job says that the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be. Can we say that? When something bad happens to us, when something that we think is precious, like what? Precious. My precious. If God pulled away that precious away from us, can you say something like what Job is saying? The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Not only that, he's also saying, Job says, shall we indeed accept good from God and not accept adversity? It's a very, very profound statement, right? And I have to be careful here, right? I mean, some people will say, oh, so what am I believing here? Why should I be a Christian, right? If I'm worshiping God that is giving us adversity, why should I worship? Right? That's why be very careful how we process this truth. Okay? Because this is what happened. Okay. Shall we indeed accept good from God and not accept adversity? Job also says, I know, God, that you can do all things, that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. And by this one here, Job is acknowledging God has a plan. And when God has a plan, nothing that we can do will be able to thwart God's plan. Now, a lot of people says that, when we experience something bad happen to us, we says that, well, God didn't make that happen. Right? God, there's something else. The devil make this happen. God didn't do it. To some sense, that's probably true. But you have to be careful in understanding that statement. Okay? Because even if you read the story of Job, yeah, all the calamity that Job experienced come from the devil. The devil actually did that. But what the devil did is because the Lord allowed the devil to do it. If God doesn't allow the devil to do it, the devil cannot do it. So, okay. So this is something that we have to understand. Okay, when something bad happens to us, okay, of course, God always wants something the best for us. God loves us. Okay? But that doesn't mean that your concept of what should happen to me is something that God will always grant. Okay? And when something bad happens to you, don't just put to judge that this is the devil doing it. Of course, the devil is doing it. Okay? But God is actually putting that in the context of His plan. And our hope, okay, is not that God got blindsided by the devil. It's not just, oh, the devil did it. God just got blindsided. He was like blinking at that time, so the bad thing happened to me. No. God was never blindsided by the devil. And that is actually should be a source of comfort. But that even in the mess of things that happen in our lives, God is in control. And that is our hope. Even when we are in the middle of bad things, God is still in control. And what you experience, okay, God is still in control. And God wants you to learn something. Be faithful. God wants to learn something. Okay? Remember, God promised you He will not give you anything that's harder than what you can bear. That is something that I always remember. Okay, whenever something bad happens to you, God will never give you something, harder than what you can bear. Promise that He has says yes, and we have to have endurance. And that is a big word, endurance. Endurance is a big word. Okay? And I just want to give you something today. That's why I come up with here. This is a Stockdale paradox. Who ever heard about the Stockdale paradox? Who ever heard about Jim Stockdale? No. Okay. All right. Jim Stockdale is a Rear Admiral Jim Stockdale. Was a U.S. soldier. Right? He's a Rear Admiral, so he has a very, very high title, very high role in Navy. Right? During the Vietnamese War. And at one time, he was caught by the enemy, and he was sent to prison, to a prison. Try to get what is the name of the prison. Hoa Lo Prison. It's a Hoa Lo prison in Vietnam. And a lot of American prisoners at that time called it Hanoi Hilton. Not because it looked like Hilton, right, with all the amenities of Hilton, but because there was a lot of American prisoners that were sent to Hanoi Hilton. That's a prison. Now, Stockdale was imprisoned in Hanoi Hilton also during the Vietnamese War. He was caught by the enemy, was thrown there for many, many, many years with a broken leg. And he's not the only one there. There are many, many American soldiers that was imprisoned in Hanoi Hilton. Many of them died. They are tortured. They're mentally tortured, they're physically tortured. You cannot imagine what happened there in the prison. But after he got released from the prison, he was interviewed by Jim Collins. And for those those of you that in business or leadership, major, you may want to pick this book called Good to Great. Good to Great. The author is Jim Collins. It's not a Bible book. Okay? It's not a Bible book, but it's very, very interesting. Okay? That book is actually confirmed the truth of your leadership and the way we face life that was actually expounded in the Bible. It's actually confirmed in that book. And Jim Collins actually interviewed Stockdale after he did this. Okay? And he said, Admiral Stockdale, what made you able to endure all the tortures, all the things that happened in that prison in Hanoi? Something bad, at some point actually the Vietnamese want to make him he want to parade him outside so that even the United States can see his face and become afraid of them, or basically propaganda tool. You know what he did? He basically ruined his face so that when he finally get paraded, nobody knows who is it. So and he did that. And he at some point he actually broke his own leg again, just because to prevent the enemy from taking advantage of him. Okay. And Jim Collins is asking, how can you endure such torture? Okay. How can you endure such torture in life where you're not just giving up? Okay. And a lot of people actually give up. Okay. And Jim Collins, Stockdale actually said two things. He said there are two things that you need to do. Okay? Number one, you have to have strong faith toward the end. Strong faith. You have a faith that, at the end, you will be out. You know when, you will be out. Okay? America is going to help. God is with you. Okay? Throughout the ordeal. You have a strong faith. And number two, you have to dare to face the brutal truth. And this is very important. You have to dare to face the brutal truth. There's a lot of times, when we, as a Christians, a lot of people actually call us, someone that doesn't want to accept it, someone that denies it, right? We always quote things when bad things happen. We quote with sweet things, such that looks like that actually nothing bad happens, right? Oh, God is just want to do some blessing. Just like we're quoting things with sweet things. No, the important things. Okay, when we want to endure something bad happen in our lives, how can we endure? We have to have strong faith. Okay, but number two, we have to face the brutal truth. And Stockdale told a story. Who was the first to give up in that prison? Who were those that give up? Who were those that finally died because of desperation, because of disappointment? Who? It's actually those people, those American soldiers, that has a misplaced faith. Their faith, those are the people that keep telling themselves, oh yeah, I will be released this Christmas. Don't worry, God is with me. I will be released this Christmas. Yeah, Christmas come, Christmas go. He's still in prison. And then he says that, oh no, God will, of course, He will release me by Easter. Easter came, Easter go. They're still there in prison. Those are people that has a misplaced faith. They don't want to accept the brutal truth. The brutal truth that they're going to stay there for a long time. And they have to accept that. We have to accept that at the time they do not know when they're going to be free. Maybe they will not get free at all. Maybe. Okay? But that is the brutal truth that they have to accept. Same thing when we are Christians. We have to accept the brutal truth. Whatever bad things that happen, maybe you're okay, your life is okay now. But just remember, when something bad happens in your life, remember, don't deny what happens. Okay? Because God wants you to learn something from what happens. You have to accept the brutal truth. You have to have a strong faith, but don't have a misplaced faith. Don't have a misplaced faith. Okay? I have a friend. Okay, maybe I told you the story before. Right? When I was in college, I have a friend that is, just came to the Lord, probably about the same time as me, and he had a girlfriend in Indonesia. Okay? And at some point he says that his girlfriend is not calling him for like several months. And he says, why? I don't know what happened to this girl, why is not calling me? And then he says, I pray to God. And I think God's telling me, if she called me by this weekend, she is truly my girlfriend. She's truly my girl. She will become my wife. When I go back to Indonesia, I will marry her. If she called me this weekend, she's truly the girl that Lord wanted me to be. And you know what? She did. After several months, she did call him. She did call him that weekend. And you're so happy. You come out to the, come out from the room and come to me and says, she's calling me. She's really someone that God wants me to be. Okay. But 3 months later, they broke up. And his faith shattered. It's very, very simple thing, right? Boy and girl things. It shattered his faith. He's become very skeptical of God after that incident. Okay? I just know God also at that time, so I don't know what to say to him. But remember, you have to accept the brutal truth. The world appears to us. We have hope, and we have to be there for everywhere. Okay? And that's the paradox. Now back to the Israelites. Okay, back to the Israelites. Okay. Habakkuk was praying to God. Why there are so many violence, so many atrocities, and God finally answered Habakkuk saying, I will answer your prayer. I will raise up the Babylonians. Okay? And then after that, God raised several other prophets. One of them that's the most important is Jeremiah. If you remember from your Sunday school, Jeremiah is known for the weeping prophet because he's crying a lot. He's crying a lot. Okay? And he actually wrote a book in the Bible that's called Lamentation. Very, very sad. This is probably the saddest prophet in the Bible. And the book of Jeremiah is pretty long too. He wrote a pretty big book. Okay? But this is what God told Jeremiah, regarding what happened to the Israelites. He wrote on Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 11. God says that this whole country, Israel, this whole country will become a desolate wasteland. And these nations, the nation of Israel, will serve the king of Babylon for how many years? 7 years. Not only God answered Habakkuk saying that He's going to raise up the Babylonians, God is actually telling Jeremiah now that I will punish the Israelites because of their atrocities. I'll punish them 70 years. Now you can imagine it, for those of you sitting here, right? If God says that for 7 years you're going to be exiled, you can be pretty sure that you're not going to come back. Right? Right? I mean, if I add my age to 70 years, I don't think so. I think it's going to be alive. Right? Even you that stay here, probably you're not going to be alive. Right? But God is promising Israel. Because of your atrocity, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you for 70 years. 70 years in exile. 7 years. Now, this is something that we have to learn. Okay? God has a plan. Okay? But when we say God has a plan, remember, accept the brutal truth. Okay? And this is the brutal truth. In Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 to 9, we are reminded that God says that, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declare the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So shall my word be which goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, without accomplishing what I desire, and without succeeding in the matter for which I sent it. But what did God plan to do actually? What does God desire? What does God desire with all of this? It looks like that He's punishing Israel too much. Right? 70 years in exile. Just for the atrocities. Okay? Well, Jeremiah 29 verse 11. A very, very comforting verse. Here he says that, for I know, God says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. After God says to Israel that you will be punished in exile for 70 years, God says that my plan for you is planned for you to prosper. Not to harm you, but plans to give you hope and future. We really don't know how God thinks. Okay. We probably can think that's probably one subject why we learn the Bible, right? We want to know how, the thought of God so we can know the will of God, right? That's always the challenge of us Christians. Okay? But we have to understand, brutal truth, we will never understand what's inside God's mind 100%. We will never understand that. Because if we ever claim that we understand that 100%, we ourselves is actually God. And we will never be God. That's denying the truth. It's the brutal truth. Right? And this is something that, when Isaiah 55, verse 8 to 9, if it stands by itself, it maybe sounds very harsh. Sounds that, what is this God is doing in our lives? Okay? But couple that with Jeremiah 29, verse 11, you can see that God has a good plan for you. And when He says He got a good plan, He will carry out that plan. Okay? He will carry out that plan for sure. He will carry it out until the end. Okay? And that's why I said before, and I want to reiterate it, our hope is not that God has been blindsided by whoever, by Satan or by us, but that the mess itself is within the control and plan of God. Okay? Now, this is what happened afterward. Okay? After God says to Jeremiah, okay, that this is my punishment to Israel, you're going to be 7 years exiled. Not long after, the Babylonian army under Nebuchadnezzar attacked Jerusalem. It happened in history. It attacked Jerusalem. Okay? Nebuchadnezzar is a very, very powerful king of the Babylonian. Okay? And they attacked Jerusalem. And the first temple, remember, the first temple was built by Solomon. Right? Everything was made of gold. Remember several months ago I mentioned about how Solomon built this temple. He doesn't like silver. He wants everything in gold. And this first temple is destroyed. It was burned. Okay? Can you imagine when they burned the temple? When gold was burned, they actually melted and flowed. And the Babylonian army just basically put a buckets in there to contain all the golds that's melting. Right? First temple destroyed. It has a date. This is not just the Bible saying. It has a date. The first temple destroyed and religious article confiscated and brought to Babylon in 586 BC. 586 BC. And I put this year here because it's very important, because I'm going to go back to that year again later on to show you how God actually keep His promise. Okay? Remember, God says 70 years. Okay? And 586 BC, the first temple is destroyed. Okay? Now, what is inside the temple? Religious artifacts, right? Inside the temple is what's that? Inside the temple is the Holy of Holy place, right? And inside the Holy of Holy there is what? There is the Ark of the Covenant, right? Everybody watch Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark? Right? That's what they're looking for. Inside the Holy of Holies of Israel temple is the Ark of the Covenant. inside that ark is the Ten Commandment stones, and Moses things. Okay, and this thing is actually the most sacred thing in the Israel Jewish history. And you know what happened after Nebuchadnezzar attacked Jerusalem in 586 BC? What happened with that? What happened with that Ark of the Covenant? It's missing. That's what Indiana Jones is looking for. Right? Until now, it's still missing. And until now, there's a lot of myth, legends, stories, theories of where the ark is. Okay, do you know why this is important? Because as you know, if you move forward and read the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, okay, Revelation is telling you what is the future of the world is. And one of the most important things on the future of the world is that there will be the temple again. There will be a temple again in Jerusalem. And in order for a temple to be built there, there has to be an ark. This means at some point this can be found. But I don't know. We don't know where it is. We don't know where it is. There's a lot of theory. But again, now you know when it was actually got missing. When Nebuchadnezzar attacked Jerusalem and destroyed the temple in 586 BC, that's when the ark of God is missing. We don't know where. And what happened after they attacked Jerusalem? Jerusalem is in ruin, and the Israelites they were exiled to Babylon. They were exiled. And so instead of the Babylonians occupying Jerusalem, they saw that Jerusalem is in ruin. There is no point of them occupying that city anymore. So they pulled all the smart, strong, young people, right? All those things, they pull it out from Jerusalem and they bring it to Babylon. So now you see that what God has promised, that God has been telling Habakkuk and been telling Jeremiah, is actually coming to be right now. Right? And the Israelites was brought into Babylon. Okay, and this is the city of Babylon. The greatest city in the world. A city that was straddling the river. There's a river running through the middle of the Babylonian. And this is a city that is known at that time as a city that will never be defeated. It will never be defeated. Okay? And those Israelites was brought into Babylon. And this is the thing. Remember God's plan. Remember, God has a plan. But when they exiled, they said this is a punishment for Israel because of the atrocities. They experience a lot of hardship in Babylon. But God is also using the Israelites to touch some of the most important figures in the Babylonian Empire. Right? You probably remember the story of the three people, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Right? They were actually young people. Okay? That because they didn't want to worship King Nebuchadnezzar, they was thrown into an oven. Right? But when they were thrown into an oven, the book of Daniel told us that the fire could not consume them. The fire was so big, even the person that light up the fire was dead. But those three people, it's not dead. They're there. They're alive. And not only that, King Nebuchadnezzar actually saw a fourth figure inside the oven. And this is a miracle that tells us that how God is with the Israelites even though they are in exile. Okay? And not only that, God is actually want to show Nebuchadnezzar, how he is actually with the Israelites. God is actually using this instance, this story, to convert, to change the heart of Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful king in the world at that time, right? Until you can see in Daniel chapter 4 verse 37, Nebuchadnezzar says, now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and exalt and glorify the King of heaven, because everything he does is right, and all his ways are just, and those who walk in pride is able to humble. Nebuchadnezzar feel already the wrath of God of Israel, and he finally acknowledged that he is the King of heaven. Can you imagine? Even in the punishment, when Habakkuk first heard that God wanted to punish Israel by bringing all the wrathful Babylonians army to destroy Jerusalem, this thing was something bad that happened, but they'll never know that actually God is using that to bring these 3 young people there to actually change the heart of Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar become a believer. Imagine that, the most important person become a believer. Not only that, after Nebuchadnezzar died, unfortunately his son is pretty bad. Okay? Belshazzar is pretty bad, and during his ruling, actually Babylonian fell to the hand of Cyrus the Great, the Persian king. Remember, Babylonian is nowadays is Iraq, Persia is nowadays is Iran, and you can see that even at that time they're still fighting each other. Okay? The Babylonian Empire, the big city, was actually fell when Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, attacked. Okay? But after Cyrus occupied Babylonian, he put his uncle to be a king in the city of Babylon. And his uncle is called Darius. And you all remember the incidents of Daniel in the lion den. Daniel in the lion den happened during that time of King Darius, which is the uncle of King Cyrus. Okay? And again, okay, Daniel, because he didn't want to worship the king, he was thrown to the lion den. But the Lord with him, the Lord shut the lion's mouth. And during the night, actually King Darius became sad and became concerned because Daniel was his friend actually. Instead of first thing in the morning, he ran to the lion den, and you can see him peeping out there. That's King Darius. And he said, Daniel, what happened? And Daniel says, I'm okay. And then Darius says, this is what Darius, king of Persia, he says, I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and, reverence the God of Daniel. Okay? For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lion. These are the exiles. God is using the exiles to touch the most important soul in Persian and in Babylonian history. Okay? Nebuchadnezzar become a believer in God. Darius become a believer in God. Now after Darius has died, Babylon is directly ruled by King Cyrus. Okay? And this is what become very, very interesting, because 700 years before that, sorry, not 700 years, 500 years before Cyrus became king in Persia, in the book of Isaiah, in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, it's actually written, Isaiah prophesied about Cyrus who would allow the rebuilding of the temple before Israelites was exiled to Babylon and before Cyrus was even born. Okay? Hundreds of years before that, in the book of Isaiah, it was written that there is a king called Cyrus that will allow, the Israel to go back to Jerusalem. And so, probably, the Bible didn't go into detail, but probably we can put some theory. Probably Daniel came to King Cyrus and showed that verses from Isaiah, from the book of Isaiah to him, or I don't know what. Okay, but that is what happened. Okay, remember in 586 BC, Jerusalem temple was destroyed. Israel was exiled to Babylon, and Jeremiah prophesied a 70-year exile. And in the year of 516 BC, exactly 70 years, the temple rebuilding completed after Israelites were allowed to return to Jerusalem by the decree of King Cyrus of Persia. God promised He will make it happen. This is yours. That is written in the history. It's not just some. It's just not just myth. This is proof. God has a plan. We don't know what the plan is. When Habakkuk raised his prayer, we don't know what God's plan is. Okay, we don't know that God has actually put some intricate detail on the plans that actually touch many lives, put many lives to work in His planning. Okay, but at the end of the 70 years, the second temple is built, it's finished, completed. Okay, and Israel is back again in Jerusalem. Now, we have another hope. The ultimate example of God control. You got to look at this. If what happened to Jesus Christ, the ultimate hope that the Lord has given us is in the person of Jesus Christ. Maddox in his book, The Christian Employee, he says that when Jesus hung on the cross, it appeared that God had lost control of the situation. But actually, God had engineered the whole event. He had planned the crucifixion even down to the smallest details. The spear thrust in His side, the unbroken bones, even His words, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? All these details have been foretold in prophecies in the Old Testament. You know that even in the Old Testament, every detail of the crucifixion is actually already pre-written. God has actually promised what's going to happen to Jesus Christ hundreds of years ago, before that actually happens. Okay, and this is all the details have been foretold in prophecy in the Old Testament. Many details of the crucifixion were departures from the normal procedures. This is also another proof that this is not something that just accidentally happened. Because many things that happen in Jesus' crucifixion did not normally happen. Right? The guards usually broke the legs of the criminal who was being crucified. Jesus' leg never broken. Right? They didn't normally spear the criminal in the side. They didn't do that. They leave it die. Right? And many other unusual details were involved in his crucifixion. In warning his disciples of his crucifixion, Jesus himself told the disciples, no man take my life from me, but I lay down myself. You know the biggest comfort that we have right now is that when Jesus was hanged on the crucifix, okay, maybe all of us think that at that time the devil laughed in victory. Right? God died on the cross. Maybe we think that devil himself is actually, laughing out loud in satisfaction, in victory at that time, but that is not actually happening. Because if we understand what the Bible says here, at that time when Jesus died on the cross, that is actually when all the hope for the devil gets shattered. The devil becomes hopeless. Now the devil knows. Just by looking at the crucifixion of Jesus, he knows his fate is already sealed. He will be doomed at the end of the year. There is no way around it. All the history things is already put in place. It's just a matter of when. That's why I think when the devil looked at Jesus on the cross, this is his ultimate despair, because he understands God's plan is in this. All right. Our hope, let's recap. Our hope is number one. It's not on tall building and mighty weapons. Okay. Mark chapter 13, verse 1, verse 2, Jesus says that, look at those tall buildings, they will be destroyed. Okay. But our hope is in God's design for us. And how does we bring God's designs in us? Okay. It's very interesting. In Acts chapter 7 and verse 6, This is usually what I like to identify as a Christians, you know. Usually when we Christian, when we ask him, are you a Christian? Do you go to church? We shyly says, yeah. We try not to, not to say it out loud. Sometimes, we kind of ashamed or so. I don't know why, But this is what the Bible told us. When we are Christians, when we believe in Jesus Christ, okay, this is what people are supposed to look at us. Okay, in Acts chapter 17 verse 6, when the disciples of Jesus came, do you know what the people says about them? It says that this man who have turned the world upside down has come here also. Can you imagine? Austin comes to the room and say, Austin, the one that turned the world upside down, is coming into the room. I'm not joking, right? Can you imagine that? We as a Christians, okay, we have this characteristics. Okay, we are given by God, a design, a plan, okay, that we will turn the world upside down. That's why, if you notice on the upper right, I always have the word in but not of. That's just to remind me, because I have, I like a series here. I like to go deeper into studying this, how we are in the world but not of the world. So in but not of. Okay, and this is the first thing you need to understand. Okay, in the book of Acts, whenever this devil comes, people says these are the people that turns the world upside down. Now we have to remember brutal truth. Okay? John chapter 15 verse 18. If the world hates you, keep in mind, Jesus says, that it hated me first. Okay? It hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world. But I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. That is the explanation of in but not of. Right? You are in the world, but you are not of the world. Okay? Don't worry if the world hates you. If the world does not hate you, there's something wrong. Okay, probably you are too comfortable. Maybe you are too comfortable. Now remember, don't be too radical also. Don't be too radical things. There's a lot of things that we have to be careful. And we can talk about this in detail, maybe not now, but next time. But this is something that we have to remember. Okay, when we are in the world, we are not of this world. We are in this world. Okay, we are not of this world. Okay? Once we are a Christian, we are not pulled away from the world. We have to stay in this world. We have to do our work in this world. God has designed us to do something in this world. Don't run away. Don't isolate ourselves. A lot of Christians say, okay, I'm become Christian now, so I isolate myself. I will not befriend you. I will not talk to you. Well, okay, don't do that. Because even though you are not of the world, you are still in the world. And you have a task to turn the world upside down. And in order for you to do that, you have to work inside the world. Okay? And John 16 verse 33. I have told you this thing so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. You know what interesting here when Jesus says here? I was almost expecting him to say, but take heart, I have overcome the trouble. But he's not saying that. He's even saying more than that. He says that in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome, not the trouble, but the world. The one that gives you trouble, that God has overcome. Okay? And this has to be a comfort. This is the hope. This is the source of hope for us. Okay? Remember Habakkuk, our favorite prophets today. The prophets that is complaining on what happened. Right? He complained to God, what happened, God? Why you don't listen to my prayer? And then once God answered prayer, he says, God, why you answer it that way? Right? But Habakkuk actually write one of the best things in the Bible. There's a lot of things that you kind of stuck in your mind. Some verses that stuck in your mind. Okay, many of those. Amazingly, it's actually written by people that are that are going through a lot of trouble, a lot of ordeal. Okay, Habakkuk is one of them. Okay, remember his ordeal with praying to God and knowing what God's answer is. But this is what he says. Okay, he says in Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 17 to verse 19, which is the end of his book. He says that though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crops fails and the fields produce no fruit, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to go on heights. Habakkuk finally reconciled with himself. He finally understood the meaning of the plan of God. And this is what he says. So we are the light of the world. Okay? Matthew 5 verse 14. Remember, Jesus says that it's not that we are, it's not that Jesus says, you should not be the light of the world. Jesus is not saying that. Right? Jesus is not asking you to be the light of the world. Right? In Matthew 5 verse 14, Jesus says, you are the light of the world. You like it or not, you are light. You know. So it's not that something that, a title that we're going to earn or we're going to get. No, this is something that you are. No matter what you do, people looking at you. Okay? You are the light of the world. Okay? So, this is something that we need to, this is something that we have to accept. And this is something that have to give us hope, give us comfort. Okay? We are light of the world, so we have to we have to dare to pray publicly, dare to have absolute biblical standard for a lot of things, right? Dare to stand for honesty. Don't have sex before marriage. Ready to go extra mile to help others. Love people that do not like you. That's what I like the last thing right there. Love people that do not like you. Right? In conclusion, we know that in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 9, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. That is the goal of God, for everyone to come. And hopefully among this hopeless world, seemingly hopeless world, you know that it's not entirely hopeless. Because in every bad things or every good things that happen in the world and in our lives, God's hand, God's signature for it. And that should be the source